Ladies and gentlemen, our first inductee into the 2014 National Corvette Museum Hall of Fame is Dave MacDonald. You know, Dave was the stereotypical SoCal hot rodder, working at a Chevy dealer and tuning cars for street racers, put him on track for a career that would encompass many forms of racing.
Dave MacDonald really changed the way people looked at racing. You know, he came into the drag racing environment in 1955 with his Corvette, and by 1960 he decided to go road racing.
Dave and I both ordered 1960 Corvettes, and I don't know if he just ran out of patience because the cars were slow getting there, or if he realized that the 57 Corvette was going to be lighter and therefore probably faster.
My father's first race was at Willow Springs back in 1960. And he ran a stock 57 Corvette that weekend and finished a respectable fourth, I think, behind Bob Bondurant.
Davey and I were Southern California hot rodders. And boy, we raced the 35 Corvettes in a race every time. There was fiberglass flying everywhere. And I'd been winning everything. And then Davey came on board. He had a natural talent too. And he started getting really competitive. One day I'd win, next day Davey win.
The following day, though, he won the feature race and scored his first of what would be many victories in his career.
It was evident, even at that time, that Dave was going to be a phenomenal driver.
You know, there are drivers that I've seen through the years, and some of them have it and some of them don't. And Dave had it in spades.
He had such a wonderful, smooth dirt tracking style on pavement, which was so completely at odds with the way Ken Miles drove on the line. The appreciation of the fans, especially up at turn 6, when Dave would first appear at the beginning of the S's, people would begin standing up.
I used to get up early in the morning and camp out so I could get the highest seat in turn 6 that I could get, looking through the S's and around turn 6, for one reason only, and that was to see Dave MacDonald. The way he drove was so entertaining.
What was unique is that I think Dave made his car a little wider when he went through a corner, because he would just throw the car, toss it through the corner, and power out of it sideways, and that was a very unique way of driving it.
It wasn't like every now and then he'd come through sideways, every time. And he had car control like nobody I had ever seen in my life. So at that point, I became president of the Dave MacDonald fan club. I loved it.
Carroll said he thought my dad had more raw talent than any driver he'd seen. And I remember reading that and thinking, wow, Carroll Shelby's seen a lot of really good drivers. And for him to say that about my dad, he must have been pretty special.
While his driving style made Dave a fan favorite, it was his personality that his fellow drivers most fondly remember.
He was a quiet, polite young man that you wouldn't suspect that he would be as tough in a race car as he was, because he didn't show that outwardly.
I was struggling around with my old solid axle, and he would always be there and always say, "How you doing?" and "What's going on?" And he was the man. I've never known anybody nicer or was harder driving.
He was the type of guy that pretty much let his driving talk for him, and that was the thing that I most admired about him.
But boy, off the track, he was a prince. He'd help you.
Dave was helping me with some problems that I was having with the injector. So we got some toothpaste from Les Richter and used that to hone this little piston that controlled the amount of fuel. I went back out on the track, got too fascinated by the gauges and got in way too deep in turn 9 and flipped the car over the guardrail. It landed upside down, on fire, and I think Dave was the only one that really got hurt in that climbing over the fence to get to me in the car, hurt himself, and all I got was a cut on my thumb.
Dave was always that that consummate racer that was always there to help you, to talk to you, was just an amazing individual.
Our first date was to be to the drags, and he told me he'd pick me up after church. But I asked him, how will I know you? And he said he would be standing in the church parking lot by his red Corvette. From that point on, Corvettes were ever present.
These ever-present Corvettes posed a slight problem when Dave drove for Cobra. Despite having a factory-fresh T-Bird loaner to use, Dave so loved vets that it was his split window that he drove to work.
Carroll finally said, "You're not parking that on the Shelby American lot in Venice." So when Dave drove our Stingray to work, he was told to park across the street, and that he did.
I think Dave MacDonald brought more interest and more notoriety to Corvettes than any driver that I'm aware of. He's the one that made them look fast, sound fast, and be cool.
And I remember in 1991, we were at a car show in Anaheim, California, and Zora Duntov was there. And he told my mom, Dave, best Corvette driver. And from the father of the Corvette, I thought, wow, you know, he really was pretty special.
Our first inductee into the 2014 National Corvette Museum Hall of Fame is Dave MacDonald.